Good evening and welcome back to 31 Horror Nights. It's October 20th and tonight's movie is Nightmare Alley. This is a psychological thriller directed by the Guillermo del Toro. I reviewed 3 of his movies for Horror Night. 4 if you count Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark, which I kinda do. He has made some gorgeous movies. And just from the trailer, Nightmare Alley looks great. I really like the big top carnival aesthetic. It also has 3 actors that I really like a lot. Bradley Cooper, Cate Blanchett, and Toni Collette. The trailer didn't really tell me anything about the plot, something about like this circus freak who they never show, I think. But considering who made this movie, I'm gonna go out on a limb and guess that there is a supernatural element to it, and it is integral to the plot, but ultimately the villain is not the supernatural element, it is man. I have no particular evidence for that. That's just based on the fact that that describes every single Del Toro movie I've seen. Just like Last Night in Soho, this movie is packed with big names. But whether that means it's also packed with quality has yet to be seen. I'm gonna go give it a watch. Okay, I was wrong about there being supernatural elements. This was a departure from the style in that regard, but otherwise this is still very Del Toro. And I thought it was pretty good. I think I'm gonna give it an 8 out of 10, like a high 8. This might even be my favorite of the Del Toro directed movies I've watched. Nightmare Alley is an adaptation of the 1946 novel of the same name. And the plot is basically the rise and fall of a con artist, played by Bradley Cooper. Just like every other Del Toro movie I've seen, Nightmare Alley is dripping in aesthetic. It's not nearly as pretty as something like Pan's Labyrinth or Crimson Peak, but the sets are wonderful, the production design is great. The 2 main characters are Stan the Con Man, played by Bradley Cooper, and his wife/partner in crime, Molly, played by Rooney Mara. I liked Molly's character a lot. Most of the characters in this movie are grifters in one way or another, but out of them, she sort of served as, like, the voice of reason. Toni Collette and Cate Blanchett also did great in their roles. Bradley Cooper seemed maybe a little old for the part that he was playing, but he still did very good in his acting. The characters were strong, the movie looks beautiful. I'd say that the only sort of issue I have with the movie is its story, and this was adapted from a rather old book, but the movie went pretty much exactly the way I was expecting it to go from start to finish. A movie doesn't have to be surprising or shocking for it to be good, but that also means that it wasn't surprising or shocking. Though to be fair, the arc of the story is very much how it feels like it should be. I really feel like the best way to describe Nightmare Alley overall is it's a Guillermo del Toro movie. If you like his style, if you like his aesthetic, if you like the way he writes characters, you're probably gonna like this movie just fine. If you like Del Toro, I think you should check it out. Alright, now I want to talk about a few spoilers. The message of this movie is very clear. Play stupid games, win stupid prizes. It starts out with Stan finding this traveling carnival or circus full of people doing acts that are mostly just forms of illusions or magic tricks. He's especially inspired by Xena the Seer, who is a sort of mystic type, but really she's just good at reading people and also uses the help of her mentalist husband, Pete. He teaches Stan some of his tricks about cold reading or being good at guessing things about people, but he also warns Stan to not let things go too far and especially to not believe his own lies. There was a point, for the sake of the show, Xena told a lady in the audience that she could feel like the spirit of a dead relative or something, and when it was over, she apparently took the woman inside, apologized, said that it wasn't real. Stan doesn't really see the point in that or the wisdom in that, because who cares? It's making them happy. Pete dies, and he takes Pete's journal and fully learns the art of mentalism and reading people, and he runs away with Molly to start his own act, and a few years later, they are doing very well for themselves. But during one show, he meets 2 people, a very rich man and a psychologist by the name of Dr. Ritter, played by Cate Blanchett. He does a sort of spirit sensing thing during the act with the man, but unlike Xena, he doesn't, let him know that it wasn't real. In fact, he doubles down and offers to do more spiritual work for him for money. Molly is definitely not on board with this, but it does prove lucrative. However, his next client is even more rich and even more dangerous if he finds out that he's being lied to. And I said that the movie's plot was rather predictable. I pretty much knew going into this, okay, this is the scam that's going to ruin him. He's going to get betrayed. He's going to fail, something like that. And that is exactly what happens. He loses everything. He's betrayed by someone he thought he could trust, and his wife leaves him. We cut to some length of time in the future. They never specify, but he has a full-grown beard now, and he's homeless, so I guess some amount of time has passed. And then we get a really good full circle moment, because the act that really drew him into that circus initially was the geek, which is sort of like supposed to be like a feral man who will like tear apart a chicken's throat with his bare teeth. The owner of that first circus says that they get men to be geeks by offering them something like booze, and they spike it with opioids so that they become addicted. They act like he's just a placeholder until they can find a real geek, but they get him hooked until he's begging to remain the geek, and then they've got him forever. And that becomes relevant at the end of the movie because he finds another traveling circus and he pitches like a mentalism act to the ringmaster, but the ringmaster doesn't bite. However, he does offer him a drink and says that they're looking for a geek, at least temporarily, until they can find a real one. And that's the point where I think it really hits him all at once just how far he had fallen. The fact that he had gone to feeling like he was on top of the world and invincible to being lowest of the low. And he sort of like breaks down laughing and crying and says that it would be perfect for him. So I guess this is a form of like self-punishment. This movie sort of says something that I've always thought, which is the fact that any sort of misinformation, no matter how benign or harmless it may seem, has the potential to hurt other people. In fact, they show you a way that acting like you can summon dead relatives and let people find peace can hurt people in this movie. At its core, Nightmare Alley is a cautionary tale, the sort of Icarus flying too close to the sun sort of situation. And its ending seemed very appropriate given the path that we saw Stan go throughout the movie. I did like this movie. I love the aesthetic of it, and the story, while nothing really spectacularly new or inventive, it was still engaging. If you like Del Toro's other movies, you're probably going to like this one too. Thank you for listening. I'll see you tomorrow.